Good afternoon, all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual symposium. We'll be starting the session in a short while, so be online.
I think what you can do, Seema, you can start. Anjan will join.
Okay.
He was with us only for 15 minutes.
Apologies. I mean, our building network was down, So.
Okay, you're back. Very good.
Yeah, I did it with hotspot. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay, sure.
So go ahead, Seema.
Yes. Good afternoon, all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual symposium. We thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. I am Seema Dere from the marketing team of Nelto Systems, and I'm the host for this session today. If you have any questions during this session, please type them into the question box in your control panel. I'll bring them up during the session, and we'll also have some time for questions at the end of the session. So going ahead, today's topic for discussion is how should NBFCs cope in the post-COVID world? As all are aware, currently it has been planned to lift the lockdown in phases. The government and FIDC is helping the non-bank entities to provide liquidity support to their borrowers. So let us understand how NBFCs and MFIs are building strategies to boost repayment collection, to revive cash flow, and resume loan disbursement to restore normalcy in the credit cycle. Let's understand the current situation and opportunities lying ahead for NBFCs. I would like to introduce you to the speakers today. So we have Punit Kaur Kohli. She's a functional leader, a seasonal technocrat, and a global traveler, and a proud jewel of Punjab awardee. Brings in global experience from her extensive knowledge on developing and implementing strategic plans and end user services by addressing organizational needs and promotion of growth. She's worked in diversified and leading companies like Motorola, Reliance, Bajaj Capital Limited, Bharti Airtel Limited. She is now with Manappuram Finance Limited, one of the leading NBFCs from India, in its two roles as a dynamic CIO and an innovative CTO. So hi Punit Kaur Kohli, welcome to the session.
Thanks for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah. So our next speaker is Anjan Das Gupta, a veteran finance and banking professional, heads ASA International India Microfinance Limited as Managing Director. ASA India is a division of ASA International providing microfinance to urban and rural citizens. ASA's objective is to support, improve, and strengthen the economic standing to the bottom level of economy. Hi Anjan, we welcome you to this session.
Thank you for the introduction.
Our next speaker is Mr. Pankaj Agarwal, Director at KPMG. Pankaj has more than 20 years of experience in doing consulting in BFSI, out of which 5 years with KPMG and 10 with PwC. He has experience of working with SBI, Bank of Maharashtra, Central Bank, SBI Life, Utkarsha, and others. Hi Pankaj, welcome to this session today.
Hi Seema, thanks for the introduction.
And our moderator, Mr. Punit Jain, CEO at Nelto System. He has a rich 30 years experience, primarily in the IT and BPO industry, growing businesses and companies. Prior to joining Nelto, Punit has worked with organizations like Datamatics, Newgen, Modi Xerox, in various leadership roles. Now, without a further ado, I will turn the table over to Mr. Punit Jain.
So thank you, Seema. Thanks a lot. And very good afternoon to all the audience. And I welcome all the panelists. We have a very interesting topic, which is of great interest to all of us. How should NBFCs cope with the post-COVID world? And we have an audience of around 250 registered, of which around 120 have already joined from various parts of India. And very interestingly, the four panelists which you see right now, we are all from four different cities. And technology has made it possible for us to, be part of one panel. I am based in Bombay. Puneet Kaur is based in Trichur in Kerala, Anjan in Calcutta, and Pankaj in Gurgaon. Four corners of India. So I think we'll have a very, very interesting discussion and a lot of interesting insights we hope to hear from all of us. So based on whatever I've been talking to my friends in microfinance and NBFC industries, as the impact of the lockdown, I think the impact has been really bad. That is one thing which I can sort of conclude. The degrees may be different. The 70 days or 80 days lockdown so far has hit us all very badly, and especially the NBFC and microfinance sector. In microfinance, as soon as the lockdown hit, the new loan disbursement stopped, the collection sort of, came down to a trickle. And when RBI announced, the government announced a moratorium, I think everybody sort of availed of that. Talking of NBFCs, now within various loan types, it affected a little differently. The NBFCs which were focusing on MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, they have been hit really hard because most of the MSMEs have been hit very hard. They are facing, demand problems. They are facing cash flow problems. So I think almost everybody has availed of the moratorium of 3 months, which I think is now being extended by 3 months more. So, I was talking to some people in some of the customers who handle MSME loans. So everybody is going to sort of avail of a 3 months moratorium, and some people may opt for 3 more months of moratorium. Now, talking of, one of the bright spots which I heard is gold loans. I think gold loan has done well in the last 2 months, but the reasons could be a little, non-pleasant, because a lot of families have got into trouble and financially, because maybe some people lost jobs, so they wanted finance, and so they have availed of gold loans. Possibly Manappuram could be one beneficiary of gold loan growth in the last 2 months. The other loan types, personal loan, what I hear is that disbursement stopped, but collections has continued. So different NBFCs with different loan types are coping in different ways. The government response has been to this whole slowdown, especially to NBFCs and MFIs, is to announce a credit guarantee. So they have announced a credit guarantee to NBFCs also and to MSMEs also. Now, what has been the impact and how are the people getting benefit from this? We will talk about it. All the panelists, will share their views about this. The most important things, which have to be handled during this whole lockdown and slowdown are basically, it comes to 2-3 things. How are we handling our customers? And how are we handling our liquidity and collections? Because these are the 3 most important things. So when we get into the questions, maybe, all of my fellow panel members can reflect a little upon this. So let me start with my first question. So how has COVID-19 and lockdown affected you and your company? So can I start with Anjan, you? Can't hear you, Anjan.
Sunil sir, for the introduction. Thank you, and introducing the topic. I mean, as I say that, I mean, the microfinance business is not cyclical; it is episodical. I mean, we have been having episodes one after another. I mean, previously it used to happen in a gap of around 4 years, 5 years. Now the gap has reduced. It has come down to even months. So I mean, I always humor. Previously we were dealing with the local issue, then it became state issue, then national issue. Today we are dealing with a global issue. Which is actually affecting us. I won't call it affecting. These are all speed breakers that microfinance business has got used to deal with. And they come out also quite fast out of any episode that happens. So I mean, Andhra episodes also, when people had written off microfinance industry, they came back with a bang. Similarly, after demonetization, there were so many analyses, so many reports that, I mean, this is finally going to change the microfinance industry totally. We came back from demonetization also, and COVID is also going to be a similar situation. We have to be optimistic, and we will come out. I mean, we have to understand that we are dealing with a vulnerable population segment. So naturally, if they are vulnerable, we are also going to face issues for their vulnerability. So, I mean, if you actually feel challenged, that is actually going to harm you more than anything else. So I feel going to come down. Obviously, there is the issue of liquidity. I mean, how far can you keep a liquidity? Like, I mean, we are giving a loan of 1 year, and then if we are asked to give moratorium for 6 months, so that becomes actual challenge. Both for us, for the clients. Similarly, I mean, if the moratorium is given to us, we are entitled to receive it from our lenders, but that has not happened. So some of the lenders have said that no, I mean, we are not giving you moratorium, irrespective of whether you have given the moratorium or not. So I mean, while the mid and the larger ones can deal with such a situation very effectively, the issue is, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
The issue is with the smaller ones. How are they going to get the liquidity? This was a major issue that most of them are going to face. But again, government has announced so many new schemes. I mean, they have sanctioned funds to SIDBI, NABARD for onward lending to the microfinance institutions. They have given guarantee also for loans to the segment. So here it is important that they come in quickly. I mean, do not delay it. Come in quickly and do the funding. Sizable funding has been committed by the government of India, but I mean, at the field level, that needs to be actually quickly delivered. So that is going to be very important. I mean, ultimately, it has to be understood that the clients that we are dealing with, we'll have to finance them. We'll have to fund them to get them back to normal. They are a resilient lot. The moment we fund them, they'll come back. They don't have a long gestation period for coming back. They'll come back very quickly. So these are issues. Then there are some operational issues. The branches were closed for 3 months. The staff who were manning the branches, they have moved to their homes. So bringing them back to the branches, and then again, there are local issues, the local fear, the local, the border issues, the state level regulation. So that also has been handled in the last 1 month. The staff have reached their locations and the operations have started. So that was a challenge, but that has been very effectively met by the microfinance industry. So then keeping the operations, like, I mean, keeping your people safe, your clients safe, that is also very important. So, I mean, microfinance companies, they have been issuing guidelines. I mean, here even our federations have been helping us with various kind of guidelines, to on health issues and how they'll maintain the social distancing. We have been also issuing such guidances to our clients as well as our people. So I mean, it's a new world kind of thing where I mean everything is changing. So I mean, if we adapt to it, we are going to be okay, and if we don't, there
Yeah.
are going to be issues. So these are my initial thinking on this.
Yeah, thanks, Anjan. So we get the picture. So Puneet, what is your perspective? How are you affected and your organization?
So first of all, thanks Puneet for the opportunity, and and welcome to all my fellow panelists and the target all the audiences. Yes, we at Manappuram Finance, we really had to see a lot of things. Reason being, we were somewhat prepared. Reason being because in 2018 we happened to face the first, the floods where we had a total business continuity. And as far as technology is concerned, we were really running our operations up and running from the DR perspective, and suddenly we were being told by there was a national circular for the NBFCs, from RBI, that emergency quick responses should be formulated to carry on that the how you're going to, as a CIO perspective, how you're going to handle the BCMS, basically the business continuity services. One would be in terms of an uptime of an applications, a readiness in terms of business, prioritizing, to have an uninterrupted business transactions, right? And apart from that, the personal hygiene and safety of your employees. So this was in a nutshell that critical departments were being basically identified, something like human resources, human core operations. We talk about finance and accounts, IT, then operations, because it's not only limited to our gold loan, but definitely one was the gold loan, then the series of other related projects, because the branch operations plays a very critical role in terms of gold disbursement. For practically, when you say the awareness has to be set forth, so practically no, we never were able to do some disbursements, but the facility through online digital channels really played a very good role. We were able to capitalize on all the digital assets and the digitization that Manappuram had done over the years, and it reaped its benefits. So you can say that, physically for pledging of the gold only, the customers had to come to the branches, but there were no branches, there was no operational branches. So online mechanism, which is online gold loan, was giving a market trend to us, where people were able to get the added value of, by repledging the the more value of the gold on a day-to-day basis. So if they wanted to repledge further and they wanted to have the additional amount as the loan, that they've got instant disbursement, which is like less than 1 minute of disbursement in their direct accounts. That is a kind of footfall it happened, and uninterrupted 360 crores kind of disbursements during this COVID times only through gold loan. That is what is like Manappuram has done it. And it is all possible because of the strong IT digital backbone that the company had sustained. Transactions. So we were being given something which talks about the projects, a readiness of the project. So IT was working in full swing. So things which were anticipated to, were able to deliver within 25 days, 20 days, were the target lines, were got delivered within 5 working days. So that is the kind of thing. So if we have some mechanism, either if like companies like Paytm is there, so enough of IMPS, different modes of transactions to enable the convenience to the customers through any different systems, right? Then secondly, if there is one alternate available, how the collection is replicated through all product lines, basically whether it's related to the moratorium extension or collections has to happen to the branches. So all those things, either even like into companies like projects like doorstep gold loan was being handled. So all these convenience were extended to the customers, where they had an add to the cart facility. If something like PayU or Paytms or like CC Avenue, BillDesk and all is there. So we introduced alternate mechanisms to give them customers experience that how it is, interoperability of the different areas where one service provider is pretty strong and the other is failing issues. So these kind of digital readiness had helped us out. Then also during this time, we also had no dependence, because we have a huge IBM outsourcing for almost 10 years, and the branch operations and many things are being taken care of. So during this time, a complete infrastructure team like of 20 people were catering to 20,000 employees. So that is, if you see average out one customer, so immediate work from home policy was introduced, though we did not have a culture of work from home. Work from home policy was introduced, and like critical processes and the critical people were identified. Every departmental head was expected to have a business continuity in terms of process, people, and technology. So that was the first of its kind. Then the risk assessment was being done, which was because we recently completed our ISO 27001 and we were able to complete our risk assessment. So it was very fresh in everybody's mind. So that also as an awareness helped us out a lot in terms of carrying out all these activities. Then information security practice have to be pretty strong in terms of, because when you are working from home, you are a target attack for many ethical hackers and all that stuff. So the technology, the CISO played round the clock a very big role in terms of doing, the implementation which the developers did long, giving all those different facilities and convenience to the employees in B2B and B2C model. Information security also played a very critical role in, evaluating before we go live all the VAPTs and necessary commandments, all the necessary instructions have been taken care of. And many people who were not able to, collect laptops as an allocation from the offices. So we had to give them the convenience of BYOD basically, and we were able to connect on the, the core systems through VPN, Cisco AnyConnect or something like that, and ensure that the entire criticality is in place. The remote desktop processes are in place, and all the release management, which happened to be a change management, was being brought into force. So all these many stringent steps, also in terms of an awareness where we got some kind of a clarity that we are self-sufficient. We don't want to have anybody. So this turnaround in my IT team and technology supporting the business was a new, a new boundary wall for me to have an extension to understand that post-COVID, my team is quite self-sufficient to handle it independently. So that is something as a confidence I got. So it's more of a CIO role is now not a chief information officer, it's more of a chief investigating officer, which turns out that like what are the real pains, or which is like, the team has to be empowered to do over deliver, because the executive priorities have to be, taken on top swing. So that is basically we have to set up our reprioritization of the projects. We cannot afford to have any backlog of our projects. So it has to be going on a daily basis and a daily based rollouts also, that the things are saying. So such kind of things from technology, business perspective, and a 360-degree view from technology, people, process, and technology angle, that an NBFC has to sustain. I think so. We were very well geared for it.
Great. Thanks a lot, Puneet. Very interesting perspective. So coming to you, Pankaj, you have the advantage of a bigger perspective, because you talk to many customers who are banks, NBFCs and all. So what have you seen? How have people got affected? How have you got affected? And what has been the role of technology in all this and in future?
Thanks, Puneet. Thanks for inviting me for this conference, and good evening, everyone. So basically, I belong to a consulting industry, so I bring a outside-in perspective, right? So I'm not belong to NBFC per se, but yes, over the last minimum 10 years, I am working with NBFCs, small finance banks, as soon as they come into play. Prior to that, working with MFIs and all. So I may bring a perspective which is with the outside perspective, right? Now, when I talk about my organization, my work, so as Seema talks about about me, I belong to financial services domain in KPMG, and so we work with the banks and other insurance companies and all, and they come under the financial services. So in terms of, if you ask me that how we are coping up, yes, I would say more work. And not only for me, I'm sure all of you have more work because there's a new reality, like which all of us are recognizing now. It's difficult to do work from home because it increases your work. I'm sure for each of us, the number of calls and the work what you are doing must have increased manifold, right? On the other side, if I look at the challenges, so when we look at any of our clients, we look at three perspectives: people, process, and technology, right? And I would like to talk, about the challenges what any NBFC can face on these three areas, right? What people are facing. So when I talk, although Puneet had discussed a lot about, about the challenges and how they have mitigated all that. So there may be a repetition what I am saying, and that's the downside and upside of speaking in the last. So there are many things which I've already heard of from other speakers. But anyways, I'll try to make it shorter. And so if I talk about technology first, I mean, I believe that over the counter transactions which were happening in the entities will go down, right? So those will decline. Right? The people will no longer, both on the customer side as well as on the client servicing team side, they will not like to have a physical interaction. So those companies who are having an assisted model or a self-service model will be successful. Physical model are going to be challenged post COVID. So that's what my thought process is on related to this thing. Second is those companies which have stayed through processing transactions, they are also going to succeed as compared to those which has a physical intervention. The third point is on the customer acquisitions, customer complaints, customer servicing, right? As long as you are doing it over a digital channel, you are able to bring the customer back, you are able to make your customer happy. As long as you are relying more on the physical footprint of the customer, I believe those firms will have challenges, right? Second, I will talk about people, right? Puneet also talk about that. People are now coping up to the new normal, right? So as I keep on talking about the physical interaction, they are going to decline in a big way, right? It's very difficult to convince your customer servicing people to interact physically. The second is, what we believe that the collections will be hit. I mean, everyone is talking about that. Yes, collections will be hit, but again, I personally believe the collections will be impacted more adversely those companies which do not have a digital collection mechanism, right, and which are relying only on a physical collection mechanism, right. The last point which I want to talk about is also about the people side. The people who have given the loans pre-COVID, there is more possibility of them defaulting on their loans. So that is what I believe are the challenges going to be hitting the NBFCs going forward. On the opportunity side, I believe the esteemed panelists have talked about, bank is giving a lot of money to NABARD and SIDBI to sanction loans. What I want to emphasize here is the way RBI has talked about NBFCs during this COVID period has been a lot of emphasis on the functioning of the NBFCs. Now everyone recognize that NBFCs are a key component, right? They are an important wheel in the car, right? And no one can ignore them. And that is what I believe is a big opportunity for NBFCs to flourish in the going forward. I personally believe that co-lending and the consortium opportunities with the banks for NBFCs are going to be the next big opportunities. And as Puneet talks about a gold loan, I'm sure the smaller loans like personal loan and gold loans will be a high uptake as we go along. The last point what I want to talk about is customer appetite post COVID. I mean, will be on the higher side, but again, we need to look at our credit models to ensure that whatever we have learned from COVID is addressed in the credit models, so that the loans given to the right people.
Yeah. Thank you, Pankaj. Very interesting. So the next question is, what are the opportunities post COVID for NBFCs and microfinance? So Anjan, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first you'll have to see what is the objective. The objective is we are dealing with the vulnerable, the bottom of the pyramid. So out of this COVID and the closures subsequently, they have been affected the most. So, for achieving our mission, again, we'll have to reach out to them. We'll have to actually make them get back to the normal life. So that is an opportunity, number one. Number two is there were changes that were coming in our mode of operation. I mean, we were going towards technology, we were going towards digital digitalization, cashless collections, and all that. So that was there in our plans. But post-COVID, this is going to be speeded up. I mean, now we've also realized that there can be situations where we can't reach our clients, so they should have mode that they can pay without physical reaching out to them. So these are going to be opportunities where we are going to speed up digital cashless collection. Added to that, even MFIs or the small finance banks, they were more. The due diligence process was more on a physical mode, like reaching out to the customer. So those are also areas where we'll be looking out that whether we can give loans using the big data, using the credit bureau. Credit bureaus actually data collections also will be more enriched, from which we can get more inputs. So those are going to be the opportunities where we will try out a more digital mode of appraisals of loan. So there again, why I'm calling it opportunity is that there are going to be cost savings. Initially, there might be high cost, but subsequently there are going to be cost savings. So reaching the customers, the kind of loan that we are reaching will be much lower. The whole model is going to go into a rejig. The traditional JLG model and the group lending methodologies, they'll completely undergo a change after this. The change was inevitable, but now it will be faster. Here Asha stands out much better, because as we don't have that JLG model, our lending is to individual, and recovery maybe in group, but there is no joint liability kind of thing. Like if somebody defaults, nobody is forced to pay. So those are things which are going to undergo a change. A new kind of microfinance is going to come in. That will be more of an opportunity, more of a cost saving, and it will be more about efficiency. Those are things which are going to come in out of this challenge.
So what you are saying is, Anjan, that one has to become more digital in everything to be able to take advantage post-COVID world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So is that your perspective also, Puneet? What do you see will be the opportunities for your organization in post-lockdown, and what will be the role of technology going forward?
Technology will be playing a very big role in terms of business enablement. So when I from a group perspective, when I talk about it, it's not about the gold loan, because I basically have almost a series of 26 product lines coming under Manappuram Group. So and the series of NBFCs under us, we have the different regulator operators. RBI is there, SBI, then the SEBI is there, and like National Housing Board is there. IRDA as well there because of the insurance broking business. So reachability to the masses can be substituted by without human touch, without manual intervention. So this is a time when the technology and the emerging technologies can play a wonderful role. Like, you can talk about the key processes which were can be substituted by robotics process automation, where we did a lot of work in terms of implementing all those robust TAT is very smart. Then probably in terms of reaching out and doing engagement channels through our bots, chatbots plays a very big role right here. So if a series of data banks and all that stuff to create more and more activeness and engagement with the customers, because the thing is how you want to get engaged with your customers. And our area is that, like, when we have a pan-India presence, vernacular language plays a very big role. So a bots not only plays a very big role in terms of reaching out to the masses, but also, if they are giving their a localization of speech engines basically, or a speech kind of a thing, then probably it understands that sort of a virtual tour where they say that very within the reachability, where exactly a person says that he's interested for any kind of loan, maybe personal loan or gold loan. Probably we reach out to do have some analytics in place of a rule engine or an artificial intelligence at the back end runouts in terms of how the disbursement of the loan happens, right? And probably cross-sell and upsell can work out good things for us. And understanding the context, what a customer really wants, a view where it's not that emails or the voice and everything works out for every customer. One really needs to know what your real customer is, which masses, which geographies, which demographics that one represents. So technology should be reached out on the model where understanding what exactly the customer wants, and basically we need to customize through any ways of technology as a convenience to reach out to them and help them out, without any touch points. That is one area. Second, it is in terms of, these days sentimental analysis or all these things, people are doing a lot of work around on what is the behavioral patterns and all that stuff of the things. I think so the situation, there is a paradigm shift. Whatever we worked on like 2 years roadmap for IT and or a technology or people process is totally turned. The working from home is the new normal. Reprioritization on the cost optimization strategies, right? So in terms of, like, with limited staff doing over delivery of the projects, as I talked earlier also, then empowerment to the employees who are delivering. In these COVID times, probably more and more empowerment, encouragement to be given, star performance to be identified in terms of incentivization of people who are really overperforming, who are really doing sales, they're doing able to get more collections. And apart from that, a management, when definitely it comes from top to bottom approach now, then that organizations really plays a very big role. When there is a key focus from top that the digital or IT is the new normal, and they identify that without this there is no survival now, then definitely people from the business stakeholders will also understand the importance of technology, that how technology is playing a very big role. They will play an equal role in terms of rolling out those, critical processes in the technology space. That is what is my context, or I say that, and it's really playing well.
Yeah. So technology will become more and more important post-COVID. I mean, it was obviously very important even so far, but now post-COVID, it will become
Yeah.
even more important.
No, earlier we were just talking about digital. It's not about that. Like, see, IT is all about digital only, digital or digitization. It's not that now only 10 years back the digital has come. Anything which was the traditional every decade, or a 5 years kind of a roadmap, IT reshapes itself or reinvents or reincarnates itself. What I said, we talked about like the earlier mainframe computers, then Y2K problems got sorted out through technologies. Then, you played a very big role in terms of the dot-com boom came. And then technologies plays the traditional ERP systems. What was that? It was a substitution of the manual intervention only, right? And now the ERPs are no more in focus. It's talk about like all the entire human behaviors getting automated end to end. This is about the journeys when we talk about a customer 360-degree life cycle of a customer, employee life cycle, or a on-demand service, a third-party life cycles, how they're going to play a very big role. So the entire world is moving towards the microservices or an API model. So I think so that is the need of the hour.
Great. So Pankaj, what do you think will be the recovery shape, and what will be the opportunities during the recovery once the recovery happens from the lockdown?
So, Anjan, it's a very difficult question which you are putting to me. I thought you will ask me something on the technology, but you are asking me that now how the recovery will go. So, I don't know whether it is VW or you. I can't commit on that, and neither I want to. Otherwise, there will be a long debate, and so let's not do that. Yeah, but the key data which has come up for the month of June, early June and May. It shows that it's sort of a V recovery, right? The data what is coming out, but it's very early days, and I don't want to get into that. On the opportunity side and the technology side, I just want to add one thing, that this is going to be an acid test for most of the NBFCs as post-COVID, right? And those NBFCs or those firms which able to digitize, or I will not use a digitize word. Puneet talks about its technology, so I will say that those companies which digitize the each aspect of a lending cycle, right? They are going to do very well as we go along, right? That's what I firmly believe. And this is where I think most of the operating models, technology operating models of the NBFCs will undergo a test in the next few weeks or months as we go along. And those who are going to do well on that, they are going to do really well on the business side of it. That's what I strongly believe.
Okay. So we also have some questions from the audience. The one question we have is, what is the role of video KYC going to be now onwards? When will NBFC start adopting video KYC? So Puneet, would you like to answer this?
So video KYC will play a very big role as far as the NBFCs or any kind of banking things will also concerned. We are also in terms of adapting to this video KYC model. So basically, we can say that video KYC will play a very big role where, the way the technology is working today, the people who would not have to go to the physical branches, and the KYC, which used to take almost like 2 to 3 days kind of a thing, in doing the complete checking the CIBIL scoring and everything. So if you have all the digital things before you do your LOS, like, the lending, before going to the LOS and, doing the credit check of the prospect that who wants to have the disbursement of a particular product loan, then probably video KYC is playing a very big role there. It gets integrated with your origination stage itself. You talk about everything through his personal credentials, his everything is in a common repository, right? And before you even reach out to him through any kind of a customer engagement, or whether you will be able to get that. So I think so this will be playing a very big role in terms of keeping the things in place.
Okay. The next question, Anjan, is for you. Are you able to hear me, Anjan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the question is that, in post-COVID world, what will be the role of field staff in the microfinance industry? Will the role go up or down, or will you try to manage without too many field staff?
See, what is too many? That is also subjective. For my case, I am not going to retrench staff. So actually the role will change. So it will become more quality than quantity. So they'll be doing more qualitative work. So you'll have to train them up. They'll have to have a absolute good training on use of digitization and whatever we give them, like on a digitization front. So and then each person, each staff will be dealing with more number of clients. So his productivity is going to increase. So that is my view, that one, a qualitative change in what work the staff is doing. Number two, his productivity level, which will be increasing sizably, and then his life also will be more on a office kind of job than roaming about on field, and doing field work and all that. So that will also help him. His quality of job also will be better than what he's doing.
Great. Our next question is from Kathmandu in Nepal. So the gentleman wants to know that there's no doubt that digitization will become more and more important. But what kind of technology can we give it to our customers? A technology which is meant for a low income and low literacy customer. What technology can we give him which they can use to make our life easier and their own life easier? Who would like to answer this?
I would like to take this.
Okay.
Okay, you can start, Pankaj, then I can follow you, no problem.
Yeah. So the immediate option what I can look at on the payment side of it, right? On the payment side, if you look at in India, like if I look at a case study in India, like the number of UPI transactions which are happening in the last 2 years, they have increased 10 times, right? Now, considering that all state of societies are using Paytms to make the payments, right? So if a company can devise a payment strategy so that they the people can pay through such kind of payment channels, then on the collection side there will be a lesser pressure. The another area where I can look at is in terms of applying for a loan, right? If people can have some thoughts on putting it up on a customer channels where people can on their own assess whether they can apply for this product or not, that can also reduce some dependency on the field staff. So these are the two areas where I think that can be immediately helped. Yeah, Puneet.
You have to unmute yourself, I think. You are muted.
Yeah, I was unmuted earlier. Okay, so say that because since it is reaching to the masses, then probably an average customer, or it's about like reaching out to them, how to help them out in terms of some convenience to the customer. So uh, awareness is one thing. Whether there could be some people who are not at all illiterate as well, so they may not be knowing how to read an SMS, they practically they don't know how to read the SMS, they don't know how to have any. You cannot even expect that they have emails, right? So the things the technologies like voice bots, contact bots can help them out. If we have some kind of a bot giving an awareness to them, which is in the form of a WhatsApp, where they open the WhatsApp, because everybody wants to be on WhatsApp today. So a bot which is reaching out to on a WhatsApp and tell them, who only speaks and tell them like this is an awareness, like how if you are really in need of some kind of a loan or a product, then they can give them awareness and educate them through some trainings, and then they can do. Then second thing is like something like Amazon has got like that Alexa, and Alexa kind of a speech engine basically, which can help them and outreach out to them in their vernacular, like localized languages, educating them about like how they can be more fertile if they need any kind of to increase their livelihood, increase their awareness, that wherever you are, we can give you those kind of within a distance step, that these particular agencies are available for you, to give you, disburse you loans based on your income strengths or anything. I think so these kind of technologies will play a very big role. That's what
Okay.
say. So that's I repeat myself again. You need to know your customer and which demographics that kind of a customer belongs to. No kind of emails or any kind of technology will work. Technology has to be customized based on the habits, the health, the understanding of the customer to where he belongs. Their technology will play a very big role. Different modes and masses to reach to.
Fantastic. The next question is very interesting. It says that as we use more and more technology in our lending process, are we not increasing our risks? Who will take this?
I'll take it.
Pankaj,
I don't think so. I
Sorry.
don't think so. We are increasing the risk. It'll be much more elaborate, and we are not just using the technology for nothing. I mean, there are going to be so many data that is going to be seen, and then everything will be so enriched. The data will be so enriched. It will be much better than the manual process. I'll give you a simple example. My branch manager who's dealing at a particular branch, he's not a qualified MBA. He's a trained branch manager who's risen up from the ranks. So whatever are the limitations of his due diligence, that will be taken care by our systems itself. At the moment, we have actually implemented certain systems which is making it much more effective than the manual processes. For example, the code of conduct or the common regulatory guidance that we are following. They've all been put into the system, and there are restrictions on the system. I mean, in fact, it is a much better way of analyzing, giving a loan to a customer than the manual system. There are less deviations on this. So I feel the controls will increase as the data also gets enriched, and risks will be far less.
So Puneet, I just want to add, right? If you look at with the perspective of data security only, we are looking at a physical security. Physical security can be handled easily. Now, if you look at the data security can be divided into two parts. The one part is about the data theft, what we are talking about, and the second part is about the data quality, what we are creating on the online mode. So in terms of data security with the theft purposes, yes, there are companies who have built up a strong, robust framework to ensure that there is no data security. There are technologies which are available which ensures the data security. On the data quality and on the data quality side, I'm sure when you build up your models and the frameworks, you are going to take care of that. And I agree with Anjan when he said that I have a framework and the processes which take care of my data quality and a data consistency. So in my opinion, digital bring more control and more checks and balances as compared to when we are talking of a physical model.
Okay, fantastic. One question, very practical one, this is from a small NBFC in Jaipur. So they are saying that, my bank, which is State Bank of India, they reduced my CC limits. So what do I do? This is like government is saying, we want to give you more funds, but here is my bank, which is reducing my limits. So how do I, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to run my business?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So I mean here it is important that how you have your funding portfolio. Like I mean at the moment, if you say that there is only one bank where I've got a CC limit and that is creating problem, then there was definitely an issue in the way the plans were made. As they say that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. So you have to have a funding in different sources, in different products, and different ways, in different repayment schedules, and different category of lenders. The moment you have that, you're not going to face all these issues. The moment you have dependency on one particular way of funding, these are the issues that are going to come up. So how is going to solve the current problem? I mean, instead of only going back to State Bank of India to say that you increase the limit, he has to find out there are other sources of funding. He has to find out other sources of funding and diversify his funding profile, and come out of it. I mean, if he keeps asking State Bank to increase the limit, if they don't do it, he'll land up into a problem. So the better way is look at the alternatives that are available, go to them and seek funding, even if it is slightly higher than what he's getting from State Bank of India.
The next question, which is related, is government has announced so many schemes to help MSMEs and to help the NBFCs and MFIs. So what are the schemes and how do we take the advantage of them? We are feeling a little lost. That's the question.
Who's answering that?
Maybe Anjan, you can. Yeah, you
Okay.
can go again.
Yeah, there have been a lot of schemes which have been announced by government. Unfortunately, what has happened is most of the schemes are looking for investment grade quality funding. But in the next slot, what the government announced, they said that no, we would even issue guarantee fund for lower graded organizations. So those are the areas. Instead of looking at the TLTRO, which is most of the banks are looking for investment grade funding. The other schemes that have been declared subsequently to go for those kind of funding, and then again go for the traditional kind of funding. I mean, if it is a small, which I said in the beginning of my presentation, that the smaller ones are going to face major problem getting funding, but the larger ones and the mid ones are getting the funding. So they'll have to look at other sources, maybe go to a wholesale lending NBFC for seeking some funding at a higher rate of interest, or other sources which are available. I think that could solve the problem. There are many NBFCs who are actually willing to lend, but the rate is higher.
I want to add one point here, which I mentioned in my initial discussion, that the way RBI has, talked about NBFCs in the last few months, that become a lot of, importance to the NBFC, right? And I personally believe, in my opinion, the banks will look towards NBFCs to reach out to the small and the nano kind of loans, and wherein there is a high possibility for NBFCs to have a partnership with the banks, where they get low cost of funds and bank can work as a partner with those NBFCs. Similarly, NABARD and SIDBI, they have got funding to give a collateral free loans to the NBFCs, which can also be leveraged. So I think the NBFC should also look towards consortium and a partnership with the banks, rather than doing only on the looking at the lending side of it.
Okay, I think we can take one last question, which is again very interesting. So the question is, how do we improve the risk evaluation of a customer using technology? What are the various tools and techniques available? And secondly, how do we do cashless collections, especially in microfinance? What technologies are available to do cashless collection, and what technology is available to assess the risk profiling better of customers? These are the two sort of sub questions of one question. Puneet, you would like to say something?
Like to repeat the last part of it?
So there are two
second part.
There are two related questions, Puneet. One is that how do we improve the risk evaluation of customers using technology? What are the various tools available? And second is the related, how do we do cashless, digitized, how do we do cashless collections?
Okay, so first is the about the risk of the customers. That can be basically the companies which they reach out through the loan origination systems, as I talked earlier about. So we definitely have the CIBIL checks, all the the credit risks and all things are today available with the, and if we have the scorecard where we have our own scorecards, or there is a connect of multi-bureau connectors and all that stuff, so we have the complete data being shared. So there the risk appetite of a customer being what exactly has been his paying patterns, what is the disbursements, what is the kind of loan various loans that he has bagged in his portfolio. So basically an assessment of his portfolio will enable us to understand, one is whether there are no delinquencies, like the NPAs are being taken care of, the risk treatments at what level of what is this customer segmentation, which particular a credit the customer profiling has to be done accordingly. So these are all automated into your technology systems. So the different analytics, different rule engines will go different algorithms based on the historical patterns that the company, which the products when they launch and which is getting added is done through technology and automated, and gives you a smarter decision making engines, which tells them that who is really is in the a need of the hour, who has to be granted these disbursements. That plays a very big role. Secondly, I also feel that the collections is the different modes, whether it is through a normal, web-based kind of convenience you want to give them. You want to give them the kiosk. You want to give them certain, collection apps, basically, which gives you a customer convenience. So if they want to have a readiness, so the digital, all is about digital only. That is the different mechanisms, whatever is available today, if it is a UPI, it is NPCI, or it is like different mechanisms of individual, like Google Pays, Phone Pays, or different wallet systems that if the company can give them. So I think so that is the best mechanism, where the more and more integrations we have, and the customer will have more convenience at the back end to pay their collections in time. They definitely not have that kind of a probably a sort of a you can say aggressiveness, or that thing that like oh, I have to pay my EMI and all that stuff. A small sort of reminders, engagements, alert mechanisms, like enables them to understand, yes, my EMI is about to come, so I should better get prepared for it. So that is a sort of convenience which digital or digitization can help the customers.
I think our time is up. Any closing remarks from any one of you? Any summing up kind of a thing? So what I learned, from all of you is that there will be recovery as the lockdown opens, but technology's role will really increase, and things will become more and more digital. Whether it is to understand the customer, whether it is to assess the risk better, whether it is to sort of in operations, in everywhere, the role of technology will increase, digitization will increase, and work from home is the new norm. More and more people will be working from home, and that is the new normal. Anything you would like to add to this, Pankaj?
Precisely, Puneet. I mean, I agree with you. As I said, it's an acid test for all firms to perform on digital, because no longer it's only about doing some transactions, but now it's about doing the end-to-end transactions on digital medium and to stay afloat, right? And I think this become very important and relevant for all firms to invest. So I, as a consultant, would be very happy. I mean, when I say this word, that to make the firm's investment in the digital technologies and the digital capability, which can help them in this post-COVID era.
Anything from you, Anjan? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to what Mr. Pankaj said, all I can say is, I mean, we have proved it before also. We should have trust on our clients. We should have trust on our staff. These are temporary glitches, situations which we are going to pass. I mean, our clients, they have got high resilience. At this moment, we have to identify, I mean, which customer cannot pay and which customer can pay. If the customer can pay, explain to them that it's better not to seek moratorium. The interest element is going higher. Get the collections from them. Give out moratorium to people who are actually unable to pay. They need your support. Ultimately, they will come out. They'll become regular, and that will help you much better. The moment we panic and start taking money and collections from everybody, I mean, there's going to be like situation, Andhra like situation. So we'll have to have that patience, trust. We'll get back to normal. There's nothing to worry.
Anything from you, Puneet? Last remark?
I must say that we have to live by it, and this is the new normal, and everybody has to be more digital savvy and more tech savvy. That's the need of the hour.
So thanks a lot. I think it was a great discussion we had, and very interesting questions. The engagement with the audience was very good, and I enjoyed a lot. So thanks a lot again, Puneet, Pankaj, Anjan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to all our eminent speakers, and thank you to everyone. We really appreciate you being here. The video recording for this session will be shared with you all. And if there are any questions which have been unanswered, we'll touch base with you via mail. We request all of you to share your feedback via mail at marketing@narito.com. We thank you all once again for joining today, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Seema.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.